Hey, it's Hilary Leslie, and I am reporting live from Stirling Castle in Stirling, Scotland. So I am going to just read a little introduction from my Capstone project, which is called Is There a Scottishness to Scottish Detective Fiction? Exploring Ian Rankin's literary relationship with Scotland from a post-colonial perspective. And then after that, I am going to read my creative to you, and that is called Bloody Royals. So my Capstone project investigates the so-called Scottishness behind Scottish detective fiction in relation to British literature. I used Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes, the series, as a benchmark for analyzing Ian Rankin's Tooth and Nail, and I determined how the history of Scottish literature and nationalism has affected present-day Scottish detective fiction as seen through Rankin's writing. And I navigated the project by looking at the typical qualities of Scottish literature and Scottish detective fiction, applying both sets of characteristics to Rankin's novel. But in order to examine the Scottishness of Rankin's novel, I had to apply specific theories and characteristics to the plot, characters, and setting of the story. And then I used post-colonial criticism on Rankin's work to explore the evolution of Scottish crime fiction and present-day nationalism from Doyle's time period during a colonized Scotland to Rankin's period during a post-colonized and post-modernized Scotland. And lastly, I explored the evolution of detective fiction as a part of Scottish lit, examining past influences, present influences, and future goals. So the next section I'm going to read is from my creative, which was called Bloody Royals. I'll probably only get through half of it, but there'll be a cliffhanger, so if you want to read the rest, just shoot me an email, So the way that I structured my creative was since I was criticizing Rankin's work, I wanted to embody the way that he wrote. So the way that I justified my writing was by having the knowledge of Scottish literature by taking a Scottish literature class when I was in Scotland the last time, and I learned, I was living in the culture, I was learning the words that they would use, so I was able to develop a sense of what their vernacular would look like in literature. So I'm just going to start. He let his gloved fingers slip across the worn inscriptions, feeling a buzz of familiarity. Mum always said it would happen. Mum told me we'd finally get revenge. Mum said it would take years and years, bloody years. But me, that I'd be the one to finally destroy them? He glanced up at the castle looming over the graveyard, a slight Scottish rain trickling down his temple. He'd been visiting his past to prepare for his future, the pending future of sweet, sweet revenge. It's all for you, Mum, for all you've told me, for how he never got his chance, for my chance. Then they'll see. They'll finally understand why it can't be this way. They'll understand what's rightfully theirs. Slipping the intricate lace mask back into place, he gathered the tails of his velvet maroon suit jacket and creepily tiptoed to the edge of the lawn. The shadows engulfed his frame, hiding his face as he worked his way up to the castle's gates. A note received by Stirling Police Headquarters. And this is actually a poem. In a fortnight upon a mound of rock, gilded with glitzy glamour, amidst the bleak and dreary December, never forget your past. Ancestors mock your curious estate, graves ooze with broken discourse. Vainly I beckon a heated request, release the honors or regret. Antique lace gowns pillowed around women's waists, toxically trailing across the great hall floors. Drunken laughter mixed with the consistent hum of bagpipes, creating a mumbled myriad of sound. Within the castle, guests gaily carried about, but without, the eerie Scottish mist covered the dark cobblestone paths, masking a figure lurking outside the castle gate. The flickering of the overhanging street lamps looked like melted lemon sweets, inviting guests to continue their journey to the foot of the grounds. Chris Campbell cringed as an overweight woman crashed into his side, spilling his dram of whiskey down the front of his trench coat. "Fuck's sake, watch where you going, pal," he spat as she stumbled away. Campbell despised tourist attractions, and the first official open to the public hogmanay party at the Edinburgh Castle was filled with enough bratty English folk to make him down 3 pints within the first half hour. Campbell wondered why they cared to be in a place that had disowned England only a few months prior. "Fancy another drink, mate?" Campbell's friend Ross McGregor asked. "Foster's? Ta," Campbell replied, glancing at his watch. Campbell was assigned by his precinct to attend the event undercover after his headquarters in Stirling received a threatening note in the post directed towards First Minister of Scotland, Alfred Troutman, who would be sporting the honours of Scotland in public. He wished anyone else would have been asked, but he figured the free drink would make the situation bearable. Campbell's son wanted to go to the Oxford bar for a pint, but instead Campbell's chief detective shoved 17th century garb in his face and told him to make nice with the politicians at the Renaissance-themed ball. The grandfather clock had less than a rugby match half before its hand reached midnight, and the crowd was nowhere near knackered. Leaving McGregor to bother a girl he fancied, Campbell took a swig of his brew and glanced across the crowd, witnessing a couple attempt the gay Gordon Cayley dance. "Aye, does that bastard English lad do anything other than publish rubbish news stories?" Campbell asked McGregor upon his return. Notorious reporter Andrew Law circled the area of the Great Hall, interrupting guest conversations for interviews that he'd later publish in the British OK magazine. "That cocky wanker is totally pissed. Looks like he's about to bother Alfred Troutman for a picture of the crown jewels," McGregor replied, coiling at the Cheshire grin in Law's passing glance as he made his way toward the staged area of the room. Law started scribbling on a legal pad as he interviewed Troutman, a photographer to their left snapping photos for the magazine. Troutman respectfully answered Law's ridiculous celebrity gossip inquiries until one of the castle guards asked to borrow the microphone. "Attention, attention! May I have your attention, please?" the stout Scotsman shouted as he made his way on stage. "Fellow Scottish lads and lassies and a few other Brits, welcome to the first official Hogmanay celebration at Edinburgh Castle. We're glad you came to spend your quids and dance your trousers off in honor of Scotland's official independence. Only 10 minutes until the cannon blast and fireworks show to commemorate the first year of Scotland's freedom." "Freedom!" a drunken teenager shouted in the crowd. "Christ's sake, that wee lad is no doubt either a bloody Englishman or an American," thought Campbell as the crowd erupted into laughter at the Braveheart reference. "Well, on that note, time for another cider, eh? See you outside in a tick," he smirked, stepping off stage as the room once again filled with the voluminous sound of a good night out. Campbell and McGregor made their way toward the bar one last time before stepping outside in the winter's crisp air. Campbell felt a chill course run through his body, but it wasn't from the season's charm. Something didn't feel right, but he couldn't place his finger on it. Ever since the Stirling police headquarters had received the threatening note, the Hogmanay celebration flooded with an excessive amount of guards in order to keep the party as safe as possible. The note's vague instructions forced Campbell to stay alert for the duration of the evening, but so far nothing had seemed out of place until the crowd worked its way outdoors. A group of glamorous women stood with Alfred Troutman by the cannon, carving the countdown for the New Year's arrival. The crescent moon's light bounced off the crown jewels, a mystical and mesmerizing sight, outshining the flashy white smiles of the women on either side of Troutman. 10, 9, 8, 7, they began, and the rest of the crowd chimed in at 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Campbell's digital watch beeped double zeros across the board as the bewitching hour took its toll. The crowd was screaming and laughing in response to the gut-wrenching, chest-pounding, ear-piercing sound of the fireworks partnered with the blast of the cannon. At the edge of the precipice, gathered near the smoking cannon, a group of people were unnaturally clustered. Campbell forced his way into the circle to find a body sprawled on the cobblestone surface. A pool of oozing blood poured from the center of his chest. Under the dim lighting of the moon, it almost appeared to be a tar-like substance, or maybe even molasses that Campbell remembered his mother using in her baking recipes. With each occasional pop of the firework resonating in the sky, the puddle grew larger. So thank you for listening to my capstone presentation, just a brief summary of what I did and a little bit of my creative work. I wish that I could be there in New Wilmington with everybody to talk more about my project, but if you want to know more or if you're interested in the rest of my research, just let me know. But thank you for a great semester, 2 semesters doing capstone. Thank you to Dr. Vaccaro and Dr. Swordlow for all of your support throughout the entire process.